My channel is sponsored by Factor, which means we'll have an ad from them somewhere in the middle of today's video. We are currently in a war of microblogging. Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky. And two of them I think are like actively overtly killing themselves in real time, which is only made more obvious by the one of them that is not doing that. I've actually been on Twitter since 2009. Twitter was a genuinely pretty helpful tool for me in the early parts of my career. Which, by the way, hi, if you don't know me, I'm Alanah Pearce and I'm currently narrative director on an indie game called Layers Deep, which you can wishlist in the link in the description. And this is Banjo. Oh my god, you're so cute. But really, for people in all different kinds of industries, but particularly creative ones, Twitter used to be a really great networking tool. It was a great place to engage with people you wanted to actually meet or work with. I actually would say it made networking for career purposes easier than it has ever been. And it will probably never be as easy again. I mean, I know people who met on Twitter who've gone on to make successful movies together. I could make this video about the dramatic rise in hate speech recently, and the study I'm showing you published by the US Congress only includes the 2 months after Elon bought the site. It has since gotten way worse, but that's actually not what this video is about. That would be a whole separate topic that maybe we'll cover. I could also point to Meta deciding to lift some hate speech policies, but I'm not talking about that either. Obviously, hate speech bad, harassment bad, but what do you really get from me talking about that? I assume you already know that, right? But no, this video is intentionally not about politics at all. It is in fact about algorithms. Praise be to the new overlords who decide how we spend all of our time. Each of these 3 websites, Twitter, Threads, and Blue Sky, has 3 distinctly different algorithms, and how aggressive one is over another is going to dictate how pleasant the user experience is or isn't. This interestingly doesn't necessarily directly correlate to usage. People will actively spend their time engaging with something or consuming something that is making them miserable because bitches be crazy. But genuinely, that's just a less nuanced way of saying that negative emotions can be very addictive. There's even a whole psychological condition tied to this called negaholism, which is a word that I'm not going to say again. First 4 letters of that word just don't feel great to say from someone who looks like they drink mayonnaise for a living. If you catch my drift. But let me just sidebar on this real quick. Not about how I am cocaine white, but about the concept of this term in general. Do you struggle to feel satisfaction even when a problem is solved? Are you just out chasing the next thing to be mad about? You may be suffering from negaholism, a condition affecting Twitter users and YouTube watchers around the world. People with this illness experience and seek out negativity, as emotions like fear, anger, or hatred can be found to trigger their brain's reward centers. This is all true, by the way. This is a real thing. People with negaholism experience chronic negativity that impacts their ability to connect, enjoy life, and find meaning in everyday moments. But there is hope. Talk to a healthcare professional near you in order to find a new identity for yourself. Disconnect from the identity you have of being consistently mad about things and try to avoid making decisions based on impulses caused by your chronic negativity. Side effects may include uninstalling Twitter, unsubscribing from race by YouTubers, and getting a fucking life. I don't know why I did that. I recently just quit my job working in AAA game development to work on a bunch of indie stuff, so I have slightly more free time on my hands. But also, I mean, a lot of you are really addicted to negativity, and you don't have to be, and it is really bad for you. It is genuinely bad for your heart health and your brain and your relationships and your entire life. Wow, great video so far, Alanah. May I interrupt you to talk about Factor? I've been using Factor consistently for 3 whole years now, and it is genuinely one of the smartest decisions I've ever made. If you aren't already familiar, Factor is a meal delivery service. You go on the website or the app, which I use, you pick what meals you want for the upcoming week, and they ship them to you. And whenever you want to have one of the meals that you already pre-selected, you put them in a microwave for 2 minutes, and you eat them. Whenever I'm bogged down with work or meetings or whatever, it is the biggest lifesaver because it's stress-free. They are chef crafted, ready to eat, ready to go. They're also dietitian approved, and there are lots and lots of options, including keto. I always go for some of the high protein meals because I always try and keep a high protein diet. They also have calorie smart, vegan, and veggie if those are things that you're looking for as well. They also have more than 60 add-ons per week. I personally use the wellness shots. I just feel like it's a good thing to add to your diet. They have breakfast, they have snacks, so many options just to make your life easier. Hopefully you'll be happy too. And if you are, great news. QR code on screen somewhere. Or you can go to the description, click the link, and use my code CHARALANAHGEN50 to get 50% off your first box. And free shipping, by the way. That is CHARALANAHGEN50. Again, it's in the description if you need it spelled out for you. For 50% off your first box and free shipping. Now back to the video. Anyway, back to algorithms, which I have definitely disrespected by not talking about for several minutes. I'm sorry, grok. Praise be, or whatever. Let me get a little personal / anecdotal here first. So obviously, as somebody who does content creation as effectively a part-time side job, I benefit from sharing my work on these platforms and from being on these platforms. So I am also participating in this weird micro-blogging war where I think I figured out different ways to use each of these sites differently. But I am increasingly becoming more confident and frankly, goddamn grateful. I do not want to be using 3 of these things. Shoot me in the face. Are you allowed to say that on YouTube? I don't care, I said it. That 2 of them are going to die or at least become functionally useless sometime soon. Certainly some brand names are too big to just die. They will persist because capitalism won't let them die. Like someone is going to take that brand name because it has too much value and that a lot of people know what it is. So yeah, I just mean become more and more functionally useless to a lot of people. And this is before the dead internet thing comes in, which we've already made a video about, where like eventually the internet is just going to be so full of AI content and so many bots that it is going to be like informationally useless, but that also is a separate thing. Now, many of you may not care how many likes or quote tweets or reposts you get, and you really, really, really shouldn't. If it isn't a thing you make money off of, you absolutely should not give a damn. Even as someone who does make money off of social media, I could not tell you how many likes or quote tweets or retweets or shares any of my content gets, as it is not a thing that I ever look at. I do not care what the actual engagement of a post is. I will not even look. But especially with the rise of micro-influencers, a lot of people deeply, deeply care. And thus they cater what they post to what an algorithm has told them they need to do to succeed, instead of to whatever is organic for them to share on any given platform. This stuff is not even for the consumption of other human beings, really. The algorithm, and in the case of Threads and Twitter, the very small payments that they can receive for making content on those websites, dictates the content. This is a no-brainer, and Threads, in my opinion, is the worst of the 3. Constant fake stories, obviously made up fictional nonsense that is so clearly designed to have a bit of bait and a hook and to give someone a reason to either click to read more or to reply. Remember when spam used to like more frequently show up in your email inbox because the filters weren't good enough on email clients yet to just feed it into the spam automatically? Yeah, it's like that, but the whole website. There are so many stolen posts on Threads that you might see a slightly different worded version of the same post 4 times in a row. If the algorithm has identified that you're interested in a particular thing, it gives you that thing over and over and over again and quite quickly. The algorithm doesn't have the ability to tell that these posts are almost directly copied from one another, if not directly copy-pasted. So it just gives you absolute slop. You can feel the desperation to cater to you on this app. You can actively feel it trying to suck you in. And how funny that one of its biggest flaws, it is that it's trying too hard to appeal to you. Like its attempts to grab you are its biggest failure. It saying, okay, this person was interested in this post, let me give them 10 of the same identical posts because that's what will keep them on the app and make sure they never leave and can't see their families again, right? That was weird. Basically, in the algorithm being too aggressive with trying to give you things that it thinks that you like, you can feel it being aggressive and it makes you go, ugh, and that's where it becomes trash content / slop, as I'm calling it. Like, I will genuinely scroll Threads for 1 minute and go, wow, no, I hate this, and then close it, which I've never done with, I think, any social media ever before in my life. Maybe YouTube sometimes. And apparently I'm not the only one. The lack of content on Threads, combined with the algorithm's habit of recycling far too aggressively, has led to pretty significant usage drops. According to Okoya, initially an average Threads user was spending 19 minutes per session, which has very quickly fallen down to 5 minutes. Twitter is kind of in the middle here, and I'm not talking about replies. Twitter is clearly the worst for that. Pretty much anything that you post is likely to be flooded with like insane, hateful garbage. This is by design. As I touched on earlier, changes in moderation have led to a statistical increase in hate speech, harassment, and misinformation, and this has caused a ton of people to leave. Influencers, celebrities, and organizations alike have migrated to other platforms. And that is an interesting shift in Twitter's branding, alongside Elon's changes to the verification process. The original appeal of Twitter was that it was really the first time you could ever go and like see what celebrities were saying without a PR team filtering their thoughts. You felt like you could talk to Lady Gaga or Barack Obama. Ashton Kutcher was the first person to reach 1 million followers, and this is what is credited as blowing Twitter up. People joined for real-time updates from the first social media president, Obama, and news outlets joined to make sure they were reporting on that news in real time. And then those outlets started posting all of their news there to try to beat the people who were already basically stealing their headlines and posting them on Twitter. And then it became a really good source for news. It was like an aggregate for the internet, but at a much faster pace than Reddit. Just a very good way to keep up to date with things. When my Twitter usage was highest, that is what I was using it for. But the changes to the verification system changed that significantly. Twitter's biggest appeal is still real-time communication, but it now has a significant accuracy problem. So no more real-time celebrity engagement, less breaking news because it has become difficult to verify the validity of sources with the blue paid checkmark that used to basically tell you, yes, this person is who they say they are. Now you can pay for that. It's very confusing who is who and what is an official source and nah. The US election specifically is actually a really great way to look at this. Historically, Twitter has boomed in usership around political events. Not in 2024 though, weirdly enough. In the lead up to the election, Twitter was actually shedding daily users consistently. It still is. In October of 2024, right before the election, Twitter actually shed anywhere from 300,000 to 2.6 million daily active users. Since early October, and I'm sourcing Mashable here, daily active users dropped from 32.3 million to 29.6 million, which is a drop of 8.4%. A drop of 8.4% in 2 months is bad, by the way, especially obviously when it's usually your most active period, being US elections. Twitter's brand value is also like terribly tanked. The revenue is down 40%. Brand value itself is even worse. In January of 2022, Twitter was valued at 5.7 billion. Now, oh boy, just 673 million. This is a massive failure for what used to be a juggernaut. But this is just me giving you stats, right? Basically, Twitter is failing statistically and financially, but why? It is, I think, openly, in a similar way to Threads, but again, not quite as explicitly, just failing the people who use it. It is failing the users. It is not delivering you something you want. Certainly part of that is the increase in harassment and decrease in legitimacy, but my beef is really content manipulation. Similar to Threads, obviously, Twitter is manipulating you to spend more time on the app, of course. So is every other app, obviously, but some are doing this to the actual detriment of the user experience. TikTok is clearly an incredible time sink for a lot of people. There are a lot of people who spend a lot of time on TikTok, but it at least does a very good job of serving you content that you actually tend to enjoy. You staying on the app directly correlates to your enjoyment. It is serving its user base. It is a very smart algorithm. It is very good at learning what kind of content that you like. If it is trending in a direction you don't like, it's actually quite easy to redirect it. Like if you're starting to get a bunch of stuff that you don't want to see on TikTok and you swipe away from it, it adapts so fast to going, got it, not that. How about this? Basically, you are consuming content on TikTok that you consistently want to consume. It is very specifically built that way. It services the users. Twitter is not servicing the users. It has a very shitty version of this. There are two great examples and very obvious examples of Twitter's content manipulation tactics, or rather time sinking tactics, that are clearly not related to user enjoyment, but instead to being an addictive app. And those are suppression of links and auto scroll video. For links, Elon has actually openly admitted to links being throttled. This has been fairly broadly criticized because it suppresses news, again, a thing Twitter used to be popular for. It means you can only post a headline, which removes context, prevents citing sources, prevents the extra detail required, or if you actually do share a full news story, nobody can find it because the website tanks it. This does not serve you as a user, this serves the app. It's just very blatant, and again, a lot of other apps aren't doing things quite this blatant. It is there to suck you into Twitter, it is not there to give you good value or good service. For auto scroll videos, I hate this. I hate this so much. Oh my god, it drives me crazy. This is why I can't use TikTok because of auto scroll video. Auto scroll video really drives me nuts. It's like nails on a chalkboard, except the chalkboard is my brain. Basically what I'm referring to is now, if you watch a video on Twitter, it will immediately send you to another video afterwards, taking you out of the thread you were already engaged in. It'll just give you another random video. I could watch a video about, I don't know, something Donald Trump said, some news I'm trying to keep up to date with, and then the next video is like a fucking meme or something. Like totally out of whack, unrelated content. Again, a very obvious time manipulation tactic because it's hoping that you will get stuck in the video loop that is TikTok, but it is a tactic that is not actually serving me as a user because that is not what I want on Twitter. That is not what really anybody wants on Twitter. This is a whole separate app it is trying to shove in your face. Again, decreasing the impact of links makes sense for business. They are preventing you from leaving, but it doesn't service the user. It actually prevents you from using Twitter in the way that it was previously used the most, or the thing that was most valuable to users. It's like a brand not understanding why they were so popular and just burning that thing down and pivoting away, but like trying to manipulate users into being like, no, this is why you liked it in the first place, but it's just clearly not. So where Threads has this like useless, really vapid engagement tactics that I think make its manipulation very obvious and very off-putting, Twitter is slightly more subtle about its tactics, but the outcome is the same. It isn't serving user needs. It is not serving people. It is instead serving its own average daily usage requirements or metrics. And in that I'm saying basically I think their mistakes are that they are not respecting their audiences. They're not thinking about even making a product that you like. They are thinking about making a product that you will use for longer, and that is not working. There is a disconnect. Turns out you have to make products people like in order for people to like using your product and then to use it more. But instead we have dramatic decreases in daily uses. Now I've spoken about the Great Time Wars on this channel countless times. It's a whole thing. Which is basically that right now, you as a human being, the most valuable thing you have is your time. Every single app every video game company, every movie theater, every website, everything right now is vying for as much of your time as it can have. This is a very powerful position to be in, frankly, because everything is so ads-based now. Your time matters more to these corporations than it has ever mattered before. That's the era of development that we are currently in, and your time is finite, and there are only so many people on the planet. That is live service video games, that is Instagram, that is Facebook, that is Twitter, that is TikTok. Your time is the most valuable resource, so be careful what you do with it. It can be really difficult to break free of apps that are designed to be really, really engaging, because a lot of the time you don't even realize that you're being tricked into engaging. But the reality is you're being spoon-fed content that you didn't ask for, you didn't even want to see, and it is doing whatever it can to prevent you from leaving. But you have to actively realize this before you can break free of it. Which brings us to Blue Sky. It's being called a liberal echo chamber. Which, okay, sure, but it's also not an app that is actively using time manipulation tactics. It is not doing that. When I told some friends that I was making this video, they recommended that I go check out a video that Hank Green made on this topic. Hank's video is on a similar wavelength, but he did something that I was just not willing to do because I don't care enough, which is compare statistics from posting the exact same content on Twitter, on Threads, and on Blue Sky, and like see what the difference in engagement is on each of those apps. I will defer to Hank here, and I will leave a link in the description to where you can find his very detailed video on this particular thing as well. But here's a little bit of it.
My little experiment was simply to tweet the same things on Twitter, Threads, and Blue Sky and see where the things did best. And that wasn't that interesting. Like, here's one that got 10,000 likes on Twitter and 7,000 likes on Threads and 45,000 likes on Blue Sky. But then I posted a link to my video that I made last week that I really wanted people to watch. We got 1,000 likes on Twitter, we got 500 on Threads, and we got 3,800 on Blue Sky. Also, I had noticed this. I tweeted that I was going to be headlining a night of comedy that's a fundraiser for an organization in my town. And on Twitter, that got 137 likes. And on Threads, it got 64. And then on Blue Sky, 718. Now, I know that this is going to be smaller than normal content. Like, of course, it's just for people that can drive to Missoula, Montana. That's a very small audience. But of course, this is being algorithmically downranked. But that's a huge problem for people who actually create content. And this is why I think a lot of people just don't, like a lot of creators, don't post that much anymore. If you are posting like crazy, providing all of this value to these platforms, and then in the moment you actually want to convert that into some, like, people going to a comedy show to raise money for the homeless shelter in your town, then they're not going to show it to anybody because the algorithms are so powerful. And Blue Sky is actually like saying, look, maybe it's okay for the algorithm to be a little less powerful. And in exchange for that, like, stuff's going to have more reach, even if it might not be quite as relevant.
Basically, the takeaway is people are actually engaging in conversation on Blue Sky, which I have also noticed. I think this is what comes with users who aren't being shoved into a particular direction by an aggressive algorithm. It might inherently be less addictive, which you would think would not work so well. But it is actually providing a more valuable service to its users by not being actively manipulative. And it's actually working, which is awesome. Like, this makes me feel better about mankind. Blue Sky's growth is pretty huge. While Twitter declined in October, Blue Sky has more than doubled since October. Its user base has surpassed 25 million, which, by the way, how cool that because Blue Sky is decentralized, it actually gives you this information. Like, how user-friendly. You're telling me things that I want to know? That's crazy. And according to research firm SimilarWeb, and I'm directly actually quoting the Hollywood Reporter here, Blue Sky added 7.6 million monthly active app users on iOS and Android in November, which is an increase of almost 300% since October. It also saw 56.2 million desktop and mobile web visits in that same period of time, up 189% from October. Now, let me touch on what decentralized means for a second here and like why I find that so appealing. When a website is decentralized, it basically means no one company owns it. Instead, it is built on a network of independent servers that are run by different organizations or individuals. Blue Sky does have multiple servers that are independently run, but the service functions thanks to infrastructure that allows them to interact. Independent servers also mean that no one company is storing or able to exploit user data. There isn't some massive conglomerate accessing all user data all at once, and thus no massive conglomerate is able to exploit or sell that data. There are also a bunch of upsides regarding censorship. No one company is dictating who gets to say what or even the priority of who is saying what. You can't have an Elon Musk or a Mark Zuckerberg manipulating elections by suppressing or promoting certain posts because no one has that much power. No one has really any power at all. Or everyone does. A decentralized slash open source platform is also open for development, meaning other app developers can use the existing service and innovate on it, so it breeds competition rather than stifling it. There are tons of downsides to decentralized platforms too, for the record, and I'm not actually asking you to join Blue Sky while making this video. Like, this is not me trying to be like, come on over to Blue Sky. I do like that I have a much smaller following of people on there who are happy to just chill and talk about video games, and it feels a lot like Twitter used to feel. But it also has its own issues. With a rapidly growing app, people benefit from making fake accounts and bots to get attention. Basically, bad actors gonna bad act, and they are, in fact, bad acting. Blue Sky isn't perfect, but it is decentralized, and I think that's really cool. My overall thesis, which I feel like I've stated several times and I'm maybe just repeating myself at this point, but I feel really positively about it. Again, if you watch my other videos, you'll know how I feel about this. You'll be familiar with the dread that I feel about content that like isn't made for human consumption and instead made for an algorithm, and humans are being tricked into consuming it anyway. Like it just, ugh, I hate it. Thesis is thus: Twitter and Threads are ignoring the importance of actually serving the user base on their app and are instead engaging in increasingly egregious time manipulation tactics, and thus are losing their user bases. As money-hungry mega services, they have basically lost sight of what value they actually provide to people, to real people, and are instead just completely focused on tricking you into staying on the app for as long as possible so they can serve you as many ads as possible. Even where it sucks for you, it doesn't matter that using the app sucks. You might not even notice. How great for them. But they don't care about how you feel about the app. They just care about you using it more and more and more and more and more. And because of that, they're failing. That's it. That's why they're failing. And so they should. And I feel very positively about that in particular. Use the apps and websites that are giving you the things you want, not just the ones that are the best at stealing your time. Your time has never been more valuable. Every corporation wants it and wants to figure out new ways to monetize it. You are worth so much money to them, I promise. Your time is worth so much money. And almost none of these apps actually deserve it. Please spend more time doing things you love, because that is how we get funding for more of the things you love at this point. Watch good films, read good books, play good video games. Please do that instead of picking up an app that isn't even treating you well. It doesn't care about you. It's not servicing you. It's tricking you. And we're all falling for it. Basically, log off, bestie. Okay, bye.